God with man's DNA. And we are probably going to get in trouble for it. Tom Cruise is getting divorced again. Big deal. Right now, you got to remember, Tom Cruise is a disciple of Aleister Crowley. Through a little line. Aleister Crowley had a disciple. He had two. Jack Parsons was one of them, the rocket scientist. Jack Parsons was a disciple, and also L. Ron Hubbard was a disciple of, direct disciple of Aleister Crowley, sat down and smoked weed with him. Okay? So here is L. Ron Hubbard, and he forms Scientology. And Scientology is weird. It is wacky weird. And Tom Cruise, and who else? Who else is one? John Travolta. They're Scientologists. Okay? And by the way, let me show you a Scientology symbol. I got one. That's a Scientology symbol. There's actually a compound in California, a secret compound, a bunker in California that has that scratched into the mountainside. And so anyway, here is Tom Cruise, and he's getting divorced again for the third time. Now here is the interesting thing. Every wife he's ever married, when the wives get to be 33 years old, he's done with them. Dun, dun, dun. It's just interesting to me. And then we have a Minnesota reverend who loses his church over the support of same-sex marriage. The Minnesota church is closing its doors for good, split over a reverend's support of gay marriage. Reverend Oliver White is looking for a new house of worship after serving pastor for 22 years at Grace United Community Church of Christ in St. Paul. The congregation, which numbered about 300, dwindled to just 125 after White voted in support of same-sex marriage at a UCC conference in Atlanta a few years ago, according to the station. A lot of sermons were preached here, a lot of laughter, hugs, joy, sorrows, especially the hugs, probably. I've seen it all, but it's time to move on. Really? It's time to move on? You mean after you run half the church out and they don't have enough money to pay your salary anymore? Now it's time. I think God is leading me to some other place. Good for that church. Article at WorldNet Daily from Reuters. Mormons quit church in mass resignation. A group of about 150 Mormons quit their church in a mass resignation ceremony in Salt Lake City. I wonder if they were wearing their holy underwear in a mass ceremony. In a rare display of defiance, ending decades of disagreement for some over issues ranging from polygamy, I know what it means, polygamy, to gay marriage, participants from Utah, Arizona, Idaho, and elsewhere gathered in a public park to sign a Declaration of Independence from Mormonism. I'd like to get a copy of that and pass that around. I think somebody needs to send one to Mitt Romney. This feels awesome, said Allison, or let me read it like she would. This feels awesome, said Allison Lucas from West Jordan, Utah, who took part in the rally amid soaring temperatures. By the way, speaking of soaring temperatures, the temperature right now in our top secret broadcasting bunker here in Festus, Missouri is 99 degrees. And it's actually a little bit cooler in here today than it was yesterday. I don't know what the difference is. Anyway, the Utah-based Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is known for its culture of obedience, and the mass ceremony was a seldom-seen act of revolt. They're not going to take it no more. Now, let's see here. Let me deal with this, because this is really, I'm going to open my can here in a minute. The book of Proverbs. God had me just read the book of Proverbs over and over and over again a few years ago. And it really blessed me. It really helped me a lot. It's still helping me. God has a long way to go with me, and I recognize that. And just like all of us, God's got a lot of work to do, but He's doing it, and I praise the Lord for that. By the way, everybody do this. Go to your browser and go to cnsnews.com, cnsnews.com, and look at their logo. Okay? Anyway, let me read this story here. 8,733,4 461. That is the number of workers on federal disability in America, and that exceeds the population of New York City. A record of over 8 million workers took federal disability insurance payments in June 2012, according to the Social Security Administration. That was up from 8,707,000 in May. It also exceeds the entire population of New York City, which, according to the Census Bureau's latest estimate, hit 8,244,910 in July of 2011. There has been a dramatic shrinkage in the United States over the past 20 years in the number of workers actually employed and earning paychecks per worker who is not employed and is taking federal disability insurance payments. In June 1992, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there were 118 million people employed in the United States, and according to the Social Security Administration, there were 3 million workers, or over 3 million workers, taking federal disability payments. That equaled about one person taking disability payments for each 35.5 people working. When President Barack Obama was inaugurated in January of 2009, there were 142 million people employed and 7 million people, workers, taking federal disability payments. That equaled about one person taking disability payments for each 19 people actually working. In May of this year, there were 142 million people working and 8,707,000 workers taking federal disability payments. That equaled one worker taking disability payments for each 16 people working. The federal disability payments made to the record 8 million workers in June averaged $1,111.42. Absolutely crazy. 1 out of every 16 people in this country who is of working age is on government disability. Now, let me say this, just to be fair, just to be nice about it, okay? If the government wants to help people that cannot work, okay. If the government wants to help people that cannot work, we have in our church, they're never on camera, there's privacy rights and so on, they've asked us not to put them on camera. Usually on Sunday morning, we have a group of guys from an area, government run, I don't know if it's government run, anyway, there's a house that about 5 or 6 of these guys live in, and they have full-time attendants living there or working there with them. They are disabled, wheelchair-bound. There's some sort of mental condition there from accident or whatever. They love coming to church, by the way, and I have had the privilege of preaching one of their funeral. Eddie, who we just absolutely love these guys. They called us and asked us, they said, we're looking for a church to go to. Will you guys let them come to your church? And I said, yeah, why not? They said, well, most churches won't let them in. And I'm going, well, that's stupid. The Bible says, comfort the feeble-minded. And so anyway, they're just a big part of our church, and we love them dearly. Those guys cannot work. They cannot function enough to be employed. It's right and humane and Christian to take care of them. Okay? So I don't have a problem with that. I'm sitting here today in my chair, and I have my heating pad, and I have my analgesic pain relievers, and I have all kinds of... If I wanted to, under the current climate, I could go to a lawyer, then to a doctor, and I could sue the federal government to force the federal government to give me disability income. I could. No doubt in my mind about it. And I would win. As you can see, however, I'm not disabled to where I can't work. I work hard, and I earn an income. I guess there's a new disability clause in the American ideology. A guy gets his legs and arms disabled from an accident. He gets them cut off, or he's quadriplegic. He moves around with a little thing sticking out of his mouth to move his wheelchair around. Stephen Hawking works, for crying out loud. But anyway, he's on and I'm not, if we had a guy in our church that was blind, okay, and he was of retirement age, and he received a disability income. I don't have a problem with that. But apparently we have a new thing in America where laziness now is a disability. And that's what it is. I do not believe for a second, not for 1 second, that there are that many people in America who are so disabled that they cannot earn an income. I don't believe that. I know people that played the system and got disability because they were lazy. And I'm not just talking about the disability. Let's add in there the welfare. Let's add in there people whose sole source of income is government money, because they've made children in their home without having a father around or a husband to help take care of them. And I'm just telling you, there are people who play the system. Are there people who need help? Yes. There are people, however, who play the system. And I don't know if you know how things work in government or not. But if a government entity gets budgeted, let's say that Disability Pension Fund gets budgeted $12 billion every year. Okay? If they don't spend that $12 billion, they're going to get cut next year, and they know it. So you know what they do? They look for people that they can put on that program. They look for people who they can give the money to, or else they will not get it the next year. It'll get cut. If they show a surplus, in the government's mind, that's a bad thing. You have to keep showing that you need more and more and more. And thus, they find people and they say, I can get you on disability. You can? Sure. What do I have to do? Just, are you hurting anywhere right now? Yeah. You qualify. Let me tell you where we're going. I opened up my can of King James earlier on this thing. And I want you to listen. This is really one of the most important things. And I want you to see this now as not just a I have and you don't issue. It's not just a look what I've done. I have made something for my. That's not what this is about. It's about a nation being in serious trouble. Number one, because the money that we gave to the people who are disabled, we didn't have that money. We had to borrow that money. We didn't have it. And so, number one, now we're on the hook for that money and we can't pay it back. Number two, it's creating a dangerous atmosphere or climate or cultural climate in this country that at some point it's all going to come caving in down on us, because at some point a large majority of the people of America need to get up and go to work. Not just for the money situation. But you and I both know, see, there's an old saying, and I don't know that you can find it verbatim in the King James Bible, but the concept is there. The idle mind is the devil's workshop. And that's exactly right. When you're not out gainfully employed, or you're not being industrious with your time, actually producing something, even in your retirement, go plant a garden or do something. When you, especially a young person, 18, 19, 20, 25 years old, someone who is in the prime not only of their working ability, but they are in the prime of their body's abilities as well, and their mind. They either, if they're not going to be industrious with their time,